Now, this is, and I'm sorry I didn't get it corrected. It is not the development goals template. It is the development report. This is a reporting process. Okay. Now, remember over on the left, I have major donors, core donors, impulse donors, and new donors. Okay. Then, so those are your 4 areas that you need to be structured in for your development strategic plan. Within those now are strategies. All right, so let's look at this. For this organization, we're going to say personal contacts. We're going to have major donor events. What are major donor events? Well, it's where we maybe have 5 to 10 people in someone's home, or we do something with this, but it's smaller and it's more focused. Mail. Well, maybe we do a special major donor update quarterly, 4 times a year. That's written on A6 letterhead from the desk of Andrew Sears, president. Okay. We might have proposals to local businesses and corporations. Don't forget the local businesses. We might be getting gifts from the Rotaries and the Kiwanis. I know all those things are changing, but my campaign down in Florida, they just got a $40,000 pledge to redo the roof of their mission from 4 or 5 Rotary groups that all came together. And then foundations. Okay, remember, foundations are major donors. Let that think in. Foundations are major donors, but they tell you how they want to be approached. Whereas individuals, you have to find out. The major donors, the foundations either put it online, fill this out, or write a proposal like this. In the old days, they'd say, don't send VCR copies. The minute you sent a copy of that, they threw it away. When you make a mistake with what they say, you're just giving them an opportunity not to have to look at your proposal. All right, monthly partners. Basically, how many are there? Did you have a special event for them? Now, what are special appeals? Special appeals are when you have a urgent situation. I'll just give a little aside. There are urgent situations and there are crisis situations. Here's the definition, like in a letter. Urgent is, we really need help with this, or it could hurt our program. Crisis is, if we don't raise this money, we will have to cut this program. And donors respect the differences between the two. So don't cry wolf by calling crisis when really it's an urgency, okay? Now, so that's what a special appeal is. They're given monthly, you say, John, don't ask it. No. Remember, they're faithful givers. And if they've been given to you for 5 years and you have a crisis, they want to know about it and they want to give to it. Okay. They don't want you cutting a program without coming to them first. All right. Then impulse donors, we send appeals, we have events, projects, white mail. Golly gee, I don't know if this is even used anymore, but back in the day when we received the bulk of our gifts from the Postal Service, there was what was called a white envelope that didn't have any of our information on it from a mailing. No response device, no this, no newsletter response. It was a white envelope. We called that white mail. In the days that I was doing this, we would get hundreds of thousands of dollars in gifts from white mail. I don't think that happens anymore today, but there you go.
John, just so I'm clear, is the difference on white mail just where people randomly send you a check and it's not a response envelope?
Right.
And you're saying that most people have switched to sending you something electronically if they're going to do that, so they're not doing white mail as much.
That, and because we know that BREs, business reply envelopes and stuff, are so successful,
right?
They might have 4 or 5 of them saved up and they use one then.
Yeah, I got you.
So
Now,
there's just less white mail.
One other thing that I wanted to ask you about, for the people who are your monthly partners, what portion are doing some sort of automated, credit card or bank drawdown? Is it generally, like 90+% rather than people?
Here's what it is. If you started your monthly partner program before, should we say 2005, 2000, you included mail. So you had mail responses, but remember, we didn't send them coupons like the old churches did. we reminded them every month with a letter, with a
Yeah.
response of it. So there is that. But anything I think past 2000, 2005 that I've worked with, they start with credit card and ACH. They
So
don't
pretty
even
much
start
all of
with
them
RIP.
now is what.
Well, any that are new programs, but I
Yeah.
have missions that have been doing monthly partner programs for 20 years.
Right. Yeah.
And here's the thing. Let me say this on this point. When you have X number of partners, let's say you have 50 of them are still using the mail,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you have 2,000, 5,000 that are doing credit card, ACH, all those kind of things, maybe even through, I don't know, Facebook or what are those things. Don't worry about those 200 people. Most likely they're older. They don't like giving their credit card. Sure, I mean, I figured out that it costs you like $10 to $13 every time you get a check in the mail, that you've got to process it and staff time and all this stuff. So I've used you will save the ministry money if you go to um, this bank, going directly from your account.
Right. Yeah.
But and most of the people of that were skeptical. I mean, I literally taught seminars in the day where I'd say, okay, how many of you would never use your credit card over the internet? And I'd always have 2 or 3 people that would raise their hand. I would never trust them, you know. And now the statistics are totally upside down.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, it's just something that I would you set up the program to go strictly digital. You don't even offer the other one.
Yeah. So one thing, just to comment, John, for the students, I'm encouraging them to use this both as a goals template and as a reporting template. So
Okay,
whenever
well
they go through their project, this year to date and
yeah, let me
last year to date is where they could put their goals, right?
actually projections and budget is where they'll put their
Oh,
goals.
yeah. That's what I meant. Sorry.
All right. So here's what we have. We have 2 sections to measure the results of your development work. The left 4 columns are number of gifts. Okay, how many did you get? And the right amount, the blue ones, the first 4 are dollar amounts. So this month we got 4 gifts. Compared to last month, we got 2. This year to date, we have 15, whereas last year to date, this time, we only had 10. Now, those total $32,000 last year, blah, 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 this year to date, last year. You might say our budget is, it could be the annual budget or it could be the monthly budget. And then the projection, maybe the projection, I can't remember all the discussions. Sometimes those are 2 different numbers, sometimes they're the same. But here's the thing I wanted to, show you, everybody. In 2008, we had a recession. And so using this report, what did we see? We saw a decline in the number of major donor gifts. But over in the blue, we saw an increase in the dollar amounts given. What does that show you? Well, I'm not going to make Andrew answer, but it showed 2 things. Number 1, we had some donors who could no longer give because of recession. Number 2, but the ones who were faithful gave more because they knew we needed assistance. And here's the third thing we learned, which is based on number 1. We started calling the people that didn't give a gift that had before just to see if they were okay. Remember, that was about a 3 or 4 year recession,
Right.
and people had their business go down, and they felt terrible that they couldn't help our ministry. So we assured them we were fine, but were they okay? Maybe some of you with the COVID-19 want to take the, maybe you're fine already. Like my one college, their gifts went up, and all they did was tell them, we decided not to ask, we just told them all the students had to go home. And for this type of ministry, that was a difficult deal because many of the students were in difficult places, living in difficult, extreme places. So anyway, the gifts have poured in. So, all right. So what you're getting at now in each of these is number of gifts in those 4 columns, where you look at how are people responding to our strategies in the major, monthly. Now, core donors, if you have 225 monthly partners, that should really stay at 225 every month. So if there's someone that drops out of that, you will probably check on it if they go a couple months and don't give. You know, just say, hey, did something
Right.
happen?
Yeah.
Are you okay? You know, I didn't say, hey, you better ante up. You know, I never did that. Um, some people send them out reminder letters saying you're this many behind in your monthly gifts. I don't do that, but others might because they depend on that cash and that giving. All right, and then the other, of course, is the dollar amounts. Now, let me tell you this, everyone who works in development, this is an excellent report to teach your executive director and your board about development and what's important. They may just look at the bottom line. They may say, well, why didn't you get that gift or this? This is where you teach them the difference between the number of gifts and the dollar amounts, and then how does that deal with budget and where we're projecting to go over the next 2-3 years.
Right.
So you can really use this as a teaching tool going up. And I've experienced sometimes executive directors and board members think they know more than you because they used to do development before they hired you, and now they want to tell you how to evaluate everything. They might not be up to date with the latest things since you're taking this course and you're going to be so much smarter. Is to use this report up in your organization with your executive director and your board members.
Yeah, yeah, this is helpful. You know, I assume that those percentages of, you know, what a healthy breakdown would be, and obviously this varies from organization. You said 10% major donors, 20% monthly donors, 30 to 40% impulse donors, and then 30 to 40% lapsed non-donors. That's probably a rough idea if someone's, you know, building this from scratch. You know, I mean, the first thing they would do, right, is look at what their last year to date was, right? And then they're going to build it based on that.
Well, Andrew, an important thing in your point and where you're going is how many strategies are we doing?
Right.
That's what's important. If you can only do 2 of these in your donors and you do 1 here, maybe you can't start the monthly program till a year from now.
Right.
So remember, when you talk about donor pyramid percentages, that's a goal.
Yeah.
But it becomes reality when you use this report and start to build your strategies.
Right.
And
I think
strategies.
Yeah, I think the reason why that's helpful is, you know, the early thing, a young organization is probably going to start with a lot of impulse donors. And you want to, if you understand what percentage should be converting to monthly donors and major donors, it helps you think about, oh, well, we had 1,000 impulse donors last year. We had 5 monthly donors and 5 major donors. You know, you probably could convert some of those impulse donors over. So it helps you think about that strategically, I think, right?
Right. And now we're going to go to how you deal with that. Now, I'm sorry, this is really small, but you'll get a printed copy, right?
Yeah, this is a part of the spreadsheet that we provide the students.
Now, let me just check one more thing. No, okay. In my development strategic plan, there are, as you've seen many of these charts, the first one is important. Then, oh, it's not included here, but the projections, then this one, then this one. So what I'm saying, there are 3 or 4 key charts that make up your plan, okay? And here's the point on this one. Look how many strategies there are. This is for like a $3 to $10 million rescue mission, let's say. No, let's not say that. Let's say and reason is because of what's not filled in. But anyway, you see the major donors. What did I say the theme should be right after the first year? Thank you. And then look at September through October through December of the personal contact. Do we have touches with the top 100 of our donors? That's for the fall. Now you can see under the executive director update, 4 update letters under major donors. Now monthly partners, this is where we were dealing with mail, where we reminded them every month and they had a tear-off coupon to send in. You won't do that. So it's a different strategy if you're on the web with them, where you might do an email every month, or you might do a report to the monthly partners where the email sends them to the website for a story. Okay?
Yep.
And then you have impulse donors, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 appeals. 7 appeals. And then they have 2 events. And then they have a small business strategy, a web strategy, a newsletter, matching gifts, radio, TV, phone-a-thon, clubs, organizations. And if web would be now called social media. Sorry, old term. But basically all the social media things. Now under new donors, are you going to rent lists for appeals? A very successful one has been ads in newspapers in major cities. Space ads where you used to buy them inside the newspaper packs. I don't know if they do that anymore. And then you're definitely going to have web things on there, things on your website to attract new donors, first-time donors. And then we have down at the bottom, plant giving. Are we going to send out information on our wills and trusts if you have that strategy? But that would not be for a beginner. So you notice, if this was a beginning organization, we have 1, 2, the year-end tax letter. That's a letter that I send to them in the first part of December saying, for your year-end giving, we hope that you remember us.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, that's 2.5 strategies for major donors. If you look at core donors, there's 1.5. They have an open house. If you look at impulse donors, there's 2 strategies, appeals and events, and then new donors, I don't have any there. But if you look at this and you would add some new donor ones, those are doable for a small or startup organization. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not doing 10 strategies. It's just doing key ones that you can be successful at. And you're putting them in the month that you're going to do them. Now, why is that important? This is not a management calendar. In other words, it's not going to say May 12th, this goes out. This is a planning calendar for how do we know we're making touches with our impulse donors. When are we making touches with our major donors? How are we doing it? And it lays it out. And then you go to the financial goals and the other things like that. This is moving to, how do I say it? But basically the calendar of when you're going to do things.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for our students, I think they would customize this so that some of these projects that you have listed, they might change. So say someone's frequently speaking at local churches, you might add that to your new donor activity, right?
Well, see, I have church strategy here.
Okay. Well, that it would be for attracting major donors, right?
Well,
I was talking about new donors. I guess it depends on what you're trying to do.
Exactly. This is the one that's the most difficult because a church strategy is not an impulse strategy. We're not just sending them letters. We have to go and make a presentation to their missions board or meet with the pastor or get to talk in the pulpit or get to put something in their bulletin. So in actuality, a church strategy, how you do it is more like a major donor than it is an impulse.
Yeah.
Yet it is an acquisition strategy.
Yeah. I think that makes sense in terms of partners, but another example could be someone who's going to speak at a local event or at a conference or something like that. Different acquisition strategies.
That's down there under clubs and organizations. But again,
got you.
You can rewrite any of those.
Yeah.
But remember, if you write something under new donors, you have to explain how it's done. Like appeals is just, and newspapers is a shotgun.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas presenting to a church or a Rotary or a conference. Yeah.
Okay, great.
All
right. Thank you.
All right. Starting to wind down now is if any of you are in a process of, well, how do I hire? How do I look at designing the structure? And so this is what I've given you is the board of directors has oversight, leadership, when talking with about development and stewardship, and they can be assigned specific tasks, like getting their company to be a sponsor at the annual banquet. The CEO, executive director out to the right, still the leader of the organization, management of the director of development, and is assigned specific tasks with major donors. Over to the left is the development committee. Now, under boards, I recommend starting with 3 committees. The first one is program, the second one is development, and the third is finance. And we tend to do that just the opposite. Finance first, and then development, and then we don't have a program committee. I believe a program committee, the board's role is to know, is the mission statement being carried out? That's the program committee. Development is how do we raise funds for it, and finance is how are we good stewards of what we raise. So I have a philosophy that way. Now, next is the director of development, leadership, strategic planning, and if assigned, major donors. If you have room, I did at my organization, we were a $5 million budget, so I had an associate director of development. Now, I still manage the team. Now, development associates, I call them. And so again, the associate director of development, you can take out, that's for a large program. The director of development can be hands-on on all these. But you look at direct marketing, special events, major donors, community relations, and volunteers. Now, what do you see in each of those? Well, what you should see are skill sets. Someone in direct marketing, appeals, writing, monthly partners, writing, newsletter, writing. Special events, golf tournaments, banquets, projects. That's a gregarious person who is good at details. Major donors. Now, this could be a major donor rep, or it could be the database person that is preparing all the major donors for the director of development and the executive director. And then you have the other 2 over on the right. Now, development associates have responsibilities. Development assistants, donor relations, systems, and support, they are, I'm trying to forget the word, they are support. They do what they are told or strategies they are given. So when you write job descriptions, make sure you're very clear between a director of development, a development associate, and a development assistant. That's, I think, the key nugget you should get from this, because if not, you put out a job description that's not clear on its parameters, and you'll get everybody and their uncle applying for it.
Yeah. Now, John, let's talk about how organizations go through stages of development on something like this. So obviously, you know, very young organization, the executive director is going to do most of the development, and then eventually they would hire a part-time or full-time director of development, or that might be, you know, shared duty. After you get a full-time director of development, what would be your next recommended hire?
You look at income producing strategies.
Yep.
And you look at the donor pyramid.
Okay.
And if I'm well, let's take it this way. The CEO started the organization, knew all the donors.
Right.
Who do they handle? They hire a director of development, and they go up the donor pyramid.
Yep.
They aren't still doing direct mail. You hire someone to do those below you, and you move up the relationship ladder.
Right.
The same is true now. And let's say I'm director of development, and my direct mail program and mailing program has just become cumbersome. It's making money, but there's too many deadlines. I can't get them all. So yeah. I would hire an income producing person probably to do the direct marketing.
Okay,
now,
gotcha.
If you can only hire one person, guess what you're hiring? You're hiring the direct marketing and the special events person as one.
Yeah.
They're doing both.
Right.
The next priority probably would be community relations. Why? Because you're working with media. It's serious today. You're working with the church, and you may be a marketing expertise. So direct marketing, special events, and community relations really integrate with each other,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then the next one would be volunteers. Depending upon who you are, can you use volunteers? Do they really help you? You need someone to manage volunteers. And I think there's a whole section in the book on how to really recruit, manage, and appreciate. I think those are the three categories we use
Yeah.
for volunteers, because those are gifts of time and talent.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, John.
All right. Are we near the end? No, not quite.
We got just a couple more, I think, and then
All
I think
right.
we're done.
All right. This is, I always said, oh, we can't get our board to give. We can't get our board to do this. We can't get, I said, teach them how stewardship is the part of every board member. In other words, the board's role in all training is to safeguard the mission, right? The second thing is to make sure the mission is funded. All right. And so the goal is, what is it? Out to the right here, 100% board involvement in development. But remember that evil sin I told you? It applies to the board as well. One size does not fit all. The big mistake is when you say, I need $100 from every board member for our annual banquet to be sponsor hosts. You know, it just isn't fair to a steward. You know, like it says in Deuteronomy, you should give him proportion to the way the Lord your God has blessed you. For some, that could be $1,000 and you're only asking them for $100. That's not right. So I created this: prayer support, an annual single gift, a monthly partner. They will host a table at something. Their business will sponsor something. Maybe they know some major donors. Maybe they're in that world. Maybe they want to sit down with you, that form that we went through, the rating 1, 2, 3, 4, and they want to assist in the research and rating. Maybe they say, okay, we're talking to so-and-so who owns this company, and I'm his vice president. I'm going to go with you, a donor call. Or I'm going to say, I'm going to introduce you to 2 of my business friends and my pastor this year, or something else. Now, let me just say, under prayer support, I don't put it there so every good little Christian checks it. I get serious about, are you a prayer warrior? Because I'm not always a good prayer warrior. I don't say, oh, I'll pray for you, unless I'm really going to. I don't like that. Just, oh yeah, I'll pray for you. So that's just a key thing in me. Maybe it's my boomer in me, but that is a real challenge to them. Are they going to pray for the ministry as part of their gift? And in one of my books, I talk about we are to steward our faith. We are to steward the gospel. It's not just time, talent, and treasure. All right. So I will end on this now. As you look back now and look at the organizational vision, which the board and the executive director lays out, and the training, and now all the segmentation and the difference between these major donors and monthly core donors and impulse donors and new donors, and you look, wow, that really does present. If I do one strategy in each one of those boxes, I have a comprehensive integrated strategy. Now, I have to tell you something, and let me just stop right here and say, if you want to edit this out, this would be a spot, is I did not include the 5-year projected income. I believe it's in the book, but that is a tool that I missed. And that is where you take your strategies and put it for year 1, and then you show the growth for 5 years and you project it out. And with that tool, Andrew and class, is when you look like, oh, we need to grow our direct mail. That's how we hire someone. We look where we need an income increase.
Yeah.
Or we need a major donor rep. And then that goes down to the annual one, the calendar, which you saw, and the reports. But I did not put in this plan, in this training, the 5-year projected income. And Andrew will make it available to you, either if it's in the book, or I'll get it to him and he'll get it to you.
Yeah, if I can get a copy of the spreadsheet, then I'll go ahead and include that. And, just to tie this together, a lot of these slides correlate to boxes on here. And, I think what makes this presentation, John, really, really helpful is, in a book, you can, you have to use mostly words, right, in a book. And this is intended to be a complement because it's providing 2 things. One is just expounding on the real nuts and bolts, what it looks like on the ground for some of these diagrams. But, we're giving students these spreadsheets so that they can actually build using the spreadsheets, and that's harder to do with a book too. So I think this is a good complement to the book. I think the book is amazing. I think adding this video to the book really helps a lot. And if any of the students want to get a hold of John, or if your organization ever wants to work with him in terms of coaching or consulting, his email is at the beginning of this video. You said John R. Frank at johnrfrank.com. Is that right?
Right, and it's all online. It's all online consulting.
Yeah, yeah. So we really
One
appreciate.
quick
Yeah,
One
go
quick
ahead.
thing, Andrew, I just want to say, to add to what Andrew was summarizing, is remember to keep it simple. And if you look at this, say, I can't do donor research, segmentation, or this, fine. Don't worry about those boxes and go to the 4 strategies that you do know something about. Remember, these are tools, but you don't have to use every box. If you need to simplify something, simplify it.
Yeah, and City Vision's a smaller organization, so a lot of these things, I'd love to have an org chart with that big of a development department, right? And a lot of the smaller organizations are probably saying the same thing. But I think that having a long-term plan and understanding, okay, here's what we can do. John, I did want to ask one other thing is, in terms of accountability and stewardship in fundraising, I know that there's kind of like, what percentage are you looking for in terms of return on investment? So, what's considered good stewardship for an organization? How much does it spend to raise each dollar?
Okay.
So
All
for
right.
the clients you're working with, what are they targeting in
Yeah,
terms of?
I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. First, remember, people, that to measure development, as we believe relations are important, you do have the end result numbers, but the other measurement is the process.
Right.
So processing, when you give your report to the board, give them a stewardship testimony.
Yeah.
Give them a story of someone says, I give to your ministry and here's what God does. That's one thing. Now, to the more complex answer. The Better Business Bureau accepts between 20 and 35% fundraising and administration.
Yeah.
Now, let me clarify. That's not stewardship, which includes PR and church relations. That's pure fundraising, not newsletters, but pure fundraising. Administration is pure administration, not because someone types at the computer their administration, but only working on things like, the budgets and the payroll and all those administrative functions. If someone's working on a computer, but it's for program, that goes under program.
Right.
So with 20 to 35%, they want the program percentage to be between 65 and 80% of every dollar should go to program. Okay.
Yeah. So that's
that's
combining the admin. What percentage are you looking for the fundraising component?
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So now you understand what the Better Business Bureau. My mentor in finance always said, try and have administration be in single digits, meaning 9% or less. So if you're at 20% administration and fundraising, and let's say you're 8% administration, you're at about 12% fundraising. Now, what are the norms for fundraising? The norms are this. As I don't think you should be lower than 14% fundraising percentage. And I think your max, generally, believe it or not, I saw a major ministry where they're reporting a 34% fundraising cost. So that's high, but I recommend from a low of 14 and a high in the 25 to 30%.
Okay, that's really helpful because I mean, for a lot of ministries, they want to be as low as possible on fundraising, but to a certain extent, that's kind of like saying, well, I'm a farmer and I'm going to save money by not planting seeds, So that's not good
also,
stewardship,
Andrew,
right? So.
I'm not going to mention names, but a number of years ago, a very famous radio person said to the head of ECFA, well, our fundraising costs were only 5%. And we think every ministry should ask, you donors should ask every one of your ministries if your fundraising is over 5%. It caused an uproar. The reason was they had a whole nother area that they raised money through that they didn't count as fundraising. They counted it as
Right.
other names, which I
Yeah,
should
yeah,
not
yeah.
say.
I get it. Sometimes organizations can do funny math and things along these
Well,
lines, but
yeah, but
I'm talking about even internal stewardship, you know,
right, right.
without doing the funny math. Like it one, you know, I was talking with one rescue mission. I think they had about a 10 or $15 million budget, and they're like, well, we could easily grow our budget to 20 million, but that's going to make our percentage spent on fundraising go up a lot higher because the return on investment is going to decrease. And they said, we're not going to do that because that's not good stewardship. And I thought, if I could double my budget between 10 million to 20 million, would I have that much integrity to say I'm not going to do it? You know, and I think
Well, but see,
that was a testament to their integrity, right?
but I don't know. From my experience, I would probably say I'm not sure they're doing the right strategies to
Well,
go
I think
from.
they're already at 20 or 25%. So I
Yeah,
think that would have put them over 35%, which,
it
you know,
depends. You
yeah,
can, if you have donors giving you $100,000 and they're in that stratosphere, that's low fund. Major donors, here's another. I'll answer it another way. When you look at direct mail and special events, they can be anywhere from a low of 20 to 50% fundraising costs
right.
for
Yeah.
those strategies. Monthly partners now, who are all digital and bank, they're as low as 2 to 5% fundraising
Okay.
cost.
Yeah.
You get into major donors, depending upon your strategy, if you have to travel, what you do, they might be 5 to 10%
Okay.
fundraising
Yeah.
costs. So if that organization said we're going to just double our direct mail and special event strategy, well, shame on them. They're just doing the high cost ones.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So,
so it's not a black and white answer is my answer.
okay. Yeah. Well, thank you, John. This has been extremely helpful. And I appreciate all the tools that you provided our students. And I think this is going to make a big difference with a lot of organizations.
I hope
So,
so. And again, like you said, they can ask you a question. They can email me a question. We're there to help.
okay. Thank you.